You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Are you ready to learn the 3 secrets to launching a successful podcast? Hi, I'm Bill, a recent client of the Podcast Mogul. If you've been thinking about starting a podcast but aren't sure where to begin, he's got you covered. He is hosting a free webinar where he will share the 3 secrets that can help you launch, grow, and monetize your podcast without any fancy equipment or technical headaches. Click the link in the show notes to save your spot now and let him help get your podcast off the ground.
Welcome to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Join the podcast mogul Phil Better as he interviews successful entrepreneurs that make their living in the digital world. Now, let's join your host, Phil Better, and his special guest today on Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of Investing Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Today, we're diving into a story of true resiliency and unparalleled business acumen. Our guest today is a beacon of entrepreneurial spirit, someone who has not just learned the formulas for success, but mastered them to create exponential results. Growing up in a broken household and leaving college behind did not deter him. Instead, he challenged his energy into what would become a staggering journey of business achievements. At the, ripe old age of 21, from the spare bedroom of his condo, he launched his first venture, a mortgage company. This company not only thrived, but became the #1 rural housing lender in the state, ballooning to nearly 100 employees and achieving 8 figures revenue, the dream of any first-time entrepreneur. However, like most journeys, it was not always smooth. The collapse of the real estate market in 2008 was a harsh setback, leading to bankruptcy. But an indomitable spirit and a resiliency of a mindset, he rebounded spectacular, rebuilding his fortune to become a millionaire once again in just 12 months. Having founded 11 companies, 10 of which exceeded $1 million in their first year, our guest today is a testament to what can be achieved with the right mindset and skills. He is a charismatic national speaker, a peak performance coach, and has helped tens of thousands scale their business across various industries, from real estate investing to medicinal spas. Beyond his business prowess, he is dedicated to imparting knowledge, hosting hundreds of events, and facilitating masterminds where industry leaders converge to shape their future. His life's work is a powerful reminder that extraordinary success and accessibility to anyone willing to believe in and invest in themselves. So please welcome the remarkable and unstoppable Jason Roberts. Jason, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Phil, man. That intro made me feel good, brother. I don't know if I deserve all that, but I'm feeling really good about myself right now. So thanks.
You're very welcome. That's how I like to start the episode off on a positive. Most of my audience knows I'm a fan of hip hop, and I never wanted to be the rapper. I always wanted to be the hype man because
you laid that down, man. Yeah,
it's just easier. But Jason, I want to thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
It's going to be a pleasure because when Peter, our mutual, reached out to tell me about you, I read what he said. I'm like, this is incredible. I want to speak to him because what you've accomplished is extraordinary. So without jumping into everything, we're going to start with the first question.
Yeah.
Why did you start your first business at 21? What was it that sparked you to be an entrepreneur?
There's 2 things. One is that, and you kind of mentioned this, I grew up in a small farm town. I didn't have business mentors. I didn't have entrepreneurs around me. My dad bailed on my 2 brothers and my mom when I was 12. And so, I didn't have the good male influence. I didn't really have any of those things. What I did see, we didn't have a lot of money. What I did see is my mom, who's a beautiful woman who worked day and night so that me and my brothers could eat, so that we could have a polo shirt to wear to school or whatever. And I saw the sacrifice. I saw her sacrifice, not a little bit. I saw her sacrifice everything for us. And it never sat right. Like I felt love from that, but I also felt like this is terrible. Like she can't have her own life because she's dedicated everything to us. And so from a young age, I tried to find things that made money, so some good, some bad, that would take, that would take some of that burden off of her. You know what I mean? And so I think that's what got it in me from a young age of like, try to figure out ways to make money so that mom doesn't have to figure out how to make it all. I think it was that. And then the second part of that for me is my first and only job I ever had was at a collection agency when I was 18. And I don't know if anybody's done that job before, but
I sat next to collection agents at the bank, so I know how like fun those jobs. Like that's not fun. Being at a collection agency is probably even worse.
I don't disagree. I mean, it's 8 to 10 hours a day of getting cussed at, yelled at. You're every horrible thing that you can ever imagine is what's getting thrown at you for 8 to 10 hours a day. The upside of it though was that I made $70,000 my first year working there as an 18-year-old kid, and so I'm enrolled in college. I'm working full time. All my buddies are at Mizzou getting a 4-year degree, and they're hoping that when they graduate at Mizzou, they can land a job that's paying half of what I'm already getting at this stupid collection agency. You know what I mean? And so I quit going to college and I just stayed there. But I remember walking, it was an ocean of cubicles, it was a big call center. I remember walking in there every day and there's people that are 30 years old and 40 years old and 50 and 60 and 70. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't know at 18 what God put me on this earth to do, but I know it's not this. You know what I mean? Like, I know I'm not supposed to be here forever. And so it was one of the guys that worked with us there who didn't do as well as me as far as like income from the collection side. He left and got into the mortgage business, and he was good friends with my boss. In his first year in the mortgage business, he made like $100,000, which that was cool, but I didn't really think anything of it. That was close to where I was at.
Yeah, it was not more than you. So what did he do?
Yeah, good for you. That's cool, whatever. Good for him. But it didn't really trip my radar. And then another year went by. So I guess I'm 19 this time, 19, 20-ish. And my boss, Sean, comes to me and he's like, you're never going to believe this. Kevin Bosham was the guy who left. He's like, you're never going to believe this. Kevin Bosham's hit almost $300,000 in income, and it's October. And I'm like, no, he did not. And like, now I'm like, no freaking way. So we go to lunch and I call him out on it, and dude opens up his wallet and throws the pay stub on the table, and it was like, I don't know, $286,000, and it was October. And that's what it was as a 19-year-old kid, man. That's why I became an entrepreneur, because I thought to myself, helping somebody buy their first house is a whole lot cooler than calling on somebody's 6-month-old Discover card bill they haven't paid. Like, right? Like, I mean, that's
right off the bat. Like, you're already doing better for the world.
That's right. Yeah. And $300,000 is better than 70. And so those two things were kind of the catalyst. And then I remember thinking, like, I don't want to work for anybody else. Like I want to do my own thing. And it was young naivety or whatever you want to call it. Like, I just, you don't know what you don't know. So I called down to the state of Missouri and I said, what does it take to open a mortgage company? And they sent me this big thick packet, and I spent the next couple of weeks combing through it. And after everything I went through, now remember, this was 2000. So this was before NMLS, this was before all the regulation that the mortgage industry now has. That there were only two things on the whole application that I didn't have. One was $50,000 in cash, and one was $1 million surety bond. I called around to some insurance agents. The surety bond was easy to get. All I didn't have is $50,000. So I lived like a hermit for the next 12 months, saved all my money, wasn't going out partying like all my friends were, or at least not as much as them anyway. And on April 15, 2001, man, that was my last day. I quit, opened up my own business, and I would like to say that it was happily ever after. It was not. But I remember waking up that first day like, oh my God, what did I do? Like what did I just quit my job. I have no way to pay my bills. I didn't have really any money in savings or reserves. And the craziest part about the whole thing is, like, I spent that whole year trying to figure out how to open the business. And I didn't spend any time. Like, dude, I did not know how to take a loan application, and I opened a mortgage company. You know what I mean? Like, I'd never taken like, who does that? What kind of dummy does that?
Apparently someone who was able to make it into a multi-million-dollar figure with 100 employees. That's who does it. But
I guess so. I didn't know that at the time though. So
Okay. That was future version of James.
yeah, that's right. That's right. So yeah, man. I mean, that was what started that whole journey.
I want to get into like when you were at your peak, like when had the 100 employees, you were a multi figure business, like in essence, you were on easy street, if you will, because obviously most of your struggles now are different. Like, oh, I can't go to Kroger's to buy this. Now it's okay. I don't have to worry about Kroger's. I can buy this. Like the simplicities of day-to-day life is taken, but now you're in more complex because you're handling 100 employees and making sure your business can pay those bills, and you have those a new set of responsibilities. How did you upskill to get to that point? Because having 10 employees to 100 employees, that's a huge upskill necessary. What did you do to upskill to get to that point?
It's a good question. To be transparent, I think it was. I know it was a lot of hard work. I was an absolute slave to that business. I mean, I started at 5:30 in the morning and went until midnight, 6, sometimes 7 days a week. Like I sacrificed everything that really mattered, because I didn't know what I was. I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know what I was doing. And I subscribe to this. If I work really, really hard right now, then someday I can have this incredible life. So I'm going to sacrifice everything right now so that by the time I'm 30, I go to the beach or whatever and I'm done. I mean, that was what my thought was in my head. And, I regret that, man. I don't regret working hard, but I regret neglecting, everything that really mattered. But to answer your scale question, I remember the first time I ever went to like an event. I knew when I opened that business, I didn't have any fancy college degree. I didn't have business school. I didn't know any of that. But I did understand enough to know that like I can spend the next 10 years on this island by myself, running around in circles trying to figure out the answer. Or I can just go find somebody that already has the answer and copy off what they're doing. You know what I mean? Like they're already getting the result. Why would I spend 10 years on my own? It'd be like trying to create an engine, for a car from scratch with scrap parts, or you go get an engine from Ford and bring it back to your shop and just copy it, right? Model it. I'm not saying steal, I'm just saying model the process. I went to this event and there was a guy named Greg Frost. I hired him to mentor us. He was the first guy to ever do like $1 billion in the home loan business. And I remember he was selling these courses, and one was like how his whole company does all of their marketing, all their letters, all their scripts, all their everything. And then the second one was like how their processors worked, like how they processed the loan officer files, and then their underwriting department, how it worked, and then post-closing. And it was basically like the map, the blueprint of how his whole $1 billion origination business runs. And I bought it. I brought it back to St. Louis. I copied that sucker, copied that set of books like 20 times. And my whole entire staff, we started coming to work 30 minutes earlier. And for the first 30 minutes of every day, we'd go through another chapter and we would implement that into our business and implement the next part and implement the next part. And we grew like that. I say the luck piece because 2001 was also kind of when rates dipped for the first time, at least that I knew of, as an adult. And honestly, the interest rates that are still low right now they've kind of been low since 2001. They've never really gone back up. So it was luck and a lot of hard work, and doing a lot of things right. But I mean, that's and the mentor piece, I tell everybody one of the biggest mistakes that business owners, new entrepreneurs make is they say, once I start to have some success, once I start to make some money, once I start to get some results, then I'll invest in my business. Then I'll invest in a mentor. Then it's if then, you know what I mean? And anybody that is super successful in business knows the very first thing that you do is find a coach, find a mentor, find a friend, find somebody that's already getting the result that you're trying to get, and get involved with them before you ever even start. It'll get you to the finish line 10 years faster and for a fraction of the price.
Well, and it also is proof in the pudding, if you will, with the fact that when 2008 hit and, your business went belly up, right? Like there's no other word around it. But in 12 months, you came back. Like if you hadn't invested in that coach, copied that, and copied pretty much his SOPs, pretty much his secret sauce, or at least the recipe to the secret sauce, you would have not been able to come back in 12 months. You would probably been like, we're screwed. You also probably wouldn't have ballooned to 100 employees doing multi-figures as well. But having that blueprint, when you lost it, you're like, okay, I already know the lessons I need to implement. Now it's just putting in the effort and putting in that hard work, and you know it gets you to that point, and then you're like, okay, who's my next mentor? Because at that point you're like, okay, I've done this twice, now what's next, you know?
It's exactly right. And I think that I think 90% of new businesses fail within the first 5 years. I don't know if people realize that or not. 90% of new businesses fail within the first 5 years. The other side of that is like 80 to 90% of New Year's resolutions fail by the end of January. I say 80% of success in anything is psychological and 20% is mechanics. Most people don't grasp that. And that's a big part of what I teach. But the reason why the businesses fail are the same reasons why the New Year's resolutions fail. And what I've learned over 24 years, and I work with Fortune 1000 companies as a consultant. I built 10 of my own company. Like this is the world I live in. Kind of like a doctor, you start to see patterns, and you see patterns of success, the things that the 10% do that make them successful. And then you see the patterns of failure, the things that the 90% that fail do that cause them to fail. And over time, you start to see a real clear path of, if you do these things, then you get the result. If you don't do them, then you end up over here, and it allows you to help people a lot easier.
And it kind of harkens back to what you were saying before, the if then that most new businesses say, like, if I get this money, then I'll hire a coach. You're at like, if I hire a coach, if I invest in my business, then I'll get the success. You already know, like, these are proven. It's not the reverse. Like, when I get it, I'll invest. It's no, I invest first and then the growth will come.
It's the first thing I do, Phil. I mean, we bought a 94-bed assisted living facility in September of 2.5 years ago. September this year will be 3 years. I've never worked in the medical world. If my mom's a nurse, that's as close as I've been to any kind of medical business. You know what I mean? And
closer than me.
And the very first thing I did is said, who do I know that knows? The question I asked myself, who do I know that knows somebody in this field that's killing it, that's crushing it at a really high level? And through friends of friends, I found a guy that's the #1 Medicaid biller in the state of Missouri. He's got 4,000 beds. A friend of a friend introduced him to. Before I ever closed on that place, I hired him as a consultant. I just for a couple hours, just tell me what I need. Like, give me all your knowledge. You've got 4,000 beds. Help me understand what's going to trip me up. What's going to cause me to fail? What are the things that I need to know? One of the things that he shared with me, this is what I mean by a real, and I'm not selling coaching. What I'm saying is, a good coach, a good mentor, a good role model can bring you in 10 times what they cost. And so this guy told me, he's like, one of the things you need to know is that the Medicaid bed price is negotiable. And I said, well, what do you mean? So at the time we put the business under contract, Medicaid was paying $3,075 per bed, and we got 94 beds. So call it 100 beds. It's about $300,000 a month gross. He said those rates are negotiable, and I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, your house can be getting paid $3,000, and the house right next to yours that's identical could be getting paid $3,750, and that difference is astronomical. It's negotiable. I didn't know that. Insurance pays one doctor $20,000 for knee surgery, but they only give the other doctor 10. That doesn't make sense to me. Like, it never even entered my mind. From the time that we put that business under contract to the time we closed on it, our billing went from $3,075 a month to right at $3,900 a month. It was an additional $100,000 a month in gross revenue. Just from it's over $1 million a year in additional gross revenue just from that mentor, from that guy that's already been to where I'm trying to go. Dude, I could have never figured that out. They don't tell you that. I could have spent the next 10 years not knowing that. It would have cost me $10 million. Like, I'm not saying, hey, look at me. I'm just saying, like,
it's harking to having a mentor, having a coach, having someone who's done it, who can be like, hey, here's some tips and tricks that can save you time and money. Look, he saved you a lot of time trying to figure out that secret, right? Since, like, you didn't know it, and probably 90% of the people going into this world of taking care of beds probably didn't know about, hey, those rates are negotiable. Now those
right.
who are listening to this are getting, like, again, even better advice for if they decide to go in.
Right.
But it's like you said, it's an over $1 million extra a year that you can reinvest into your business, reinvest into yourself, coaching your employees, getting them to the next level so that your business can then bump up and make $2, $3, $4 million the next year.
Exactly right.
insane. And you touched on networking and masterminds. Well, more networking, because through your network, you found this individual who was killing it in the game. So, but you also facilitate masterminds with some of the brightest minds across various industries. How important is collaboration and networking in today's business environment? And what trends are you currently seeing in those mastermind sessions?
So I will tell you that the concept of a good mastermind has been one of the things that has propelled me forward the most of any kind of business situation. And here's why. We can't often see the forest through the trees. We can't, when we're in the middle of our own mess, this goes for me and everybody else. Like, I'm not immune to this any more than anyone else is. Like, I'm plugging away and I think I'm doing the smart thing. And somebody from the outside's like, dude, why don't you just turn left right now? Like, you'll be out. And I'm like, what do you mean? I've been trudging this way the whole time. The cool part about a mastermind is, and especially a mastermind that has different people from different industries, is you get perspective. You know what I mean? You get a 10,000 foot view of somebody from the outside looking in. That's like, how can you not see this? This is really easy to fix. And I've been banging my head on the wall for 6 months. I see people accomplish things in 90 days in between we meet 3 times a year. I see people accomplish things in 90 to 120 days that they hadn't accomplished in the previous 5 years, because there's accountability there. When we're entrepreneurs, we don't have a boss anymore. If we don't hit that deadline that we were supposed to hit, that we would have gotten fired at in corporate America, yeah. I mean, like, we don't see the consequence of what happens in corporate America. We get written up, and if we do it again, we might get fired. Here, there's a significant consequence, but we don't see it, and so we don't feel it. You know what I mean? If we didn't do it and there was some pain, we as human beings move away from pain, but we don't. If we don't see the pain, it doesn't cause pain, doesn't generate the reaction. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the way it goes.
I love it. And I love the importance, because like you said, when I'm talking to other podcasters, because that's my business, I love podcasting.
Yeah.
They can't see what I see, because it's like, dude, it's right there. Like you said, turn left, you're out of the forest and you're right, or you're hitting the path and you got a clear go. So it's good to be networking with other people, because you've just shown 2 great examples of why it's important to have network. Your network can introduce you to the person that's going to teach you a little secret or take you to the next level in your business, add that extra, 7 figures to the bottom line, or can give you that 10,000 view perspective on your business and say, well, we've encountered this like years ago in our industry, and we solved it like this, because that's something that's new in one industry can be old news in another industry. I want to touch on investing in yourself, because the show is obviously about investing in yourself as an entrepreneur. What habits, or what I'm trying to think of a word, and as a podcaster, you think it would come easier to me. But what habits or what routines, there's the word, routines, do you have to keep investing in yourself? Is there something that you do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis that helps keep you invested in yourself so that you can upskill those things that you want?
Yeah, love this question. We could do like 5 episodes just on this.
Given that you unlock your potential with your audience, I'm not surprised. We probably could do a season.
So I'm going to give you as much as I can in the limited amount of time that we have, and just know that there's a lot more to give in this space. But I started studying super successful people, because again, like I said, I don't have this professional college. Like something just clicked in me. Like, if you want to be a national championship bodybuilder, you can go screw around it. And I guess kind of what really was is like, if you want to learn to swim, you got to jump in the damn water. You know what I mean? Like you don't learn it by reading books. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I've got 17 books on my desk. You know what I mean? Like I'm always reading things. But my point is, like, you hear the saying, knowledge is power. And I just think that that's crap. I mean, I think knowledge plus action equals power. If you don't implement what you're learning, you never learn it. You never truly learn it. And so I want to talk about, like, when I say 80% of success is psychological and 20% is mechanics, I consult for a company that does about $300 million a year in annual revenue. They're a big company. I work with the guy that's the president. And from that to like Carnegie to Ford to like every Steve Jobs to every autobiography I've ever read, everything that I've studied, the top 1% of 1% of income earners in the whole world, the number one thing that they have in common is the ability to control their own state, their own emotional state, like how they show up, right? And I know this sounds woo, and I hope that people that are listening, like, just please trust me on this. This alone by itself, if you can conquer this, you can dominate in anything that you're doing, because it's not your mechanics that's not getting you to $1 million. It's your identity, it's your values, it's your beliefs, it's who you identify with. You know, when people are trying to lose 20 pounds and they can't, it's not because they don't know how, that you know how. There's no shortage of information. Google, there's 100 million different diets that you can do that are proven that will work. It's not that. It's because you identify you identify with the person that you currently are. And the subconscious mind, the number one thing that it tries to do is keep you congruent with who you believe you are. That's what it does. It keeps you in your comfort zone where you're at. If you understand that, then you know that if you want to be the person that's 20 pounds lighter, you've got to condition your subconscious mind and your identity to believe that you're this person that you're trying to become. Or if you want a $5 million business and you're only doing 500 grand, you have to condition your subconscious that the person that does 5 million a year in revenue, what is their belief systems? How do they see problems? What choices do they make? You know what I mean? Like, you make different decisions if you've got $5 million in the bank than if you've got $50 in the bank, right? You make different decisions. So there's that whole part of things. But one thing I can give everybody is 3 things that control your state. So, like, you're in control of it. You're in control of it if you're in a good mood. You're in control if you're in a bad mood. People say, well, yeah, but like, I got in a car accident. How can I? It's still a choice. It's still a choice, and you've got to accept responsibility for it. But the 3 things that control your state are: number 1, what you focus on; number 2, the meaning that you give it; and number 3, the actions that you take because of it. Those are the 3 things that control your state: what you focus on, the meaning that you give it, and the decisions that you make, the action that you take because of that. I watched this interview that Oprah gave one time with these 2 twin brothers, and one of them was lifetime in prison, and she went to the prison first, and she's interviewing the prison brother, and you know, he's been in and out of prison his whole entire life, 20 plus years, all these felonies, no family, nothing good. And you know, so she asked him a question: what's the number one, if you were to attribute your life of imprisonment to one thing, what would the number one things be? And he says, oh, I can answer that easy. My dad was an alcoholic. He was physically and emotionally abusive. He beat the crap out of me and my brothers. He beat the crap out of my mom. It was we had this horrible upbringing. And I'm like, listen to this, like, yeah, no shit. Like, no one
to see that path. Yeah.
Right. It makes sense. I mean, it was horrible. He even said, I'm a product of my environment. So then she leaves the prison, and the next shot is her in this SUV winding up this hill, and you see this mansion in the background with gates, and she pulls into this gigantic mansion. She goes inside, and it's this guy who looks exactly the same as the other guy with a wife and 3 kids. She's interviewing him, and then you realize it's the twin brother, and she gets to the point and she says, you know, you're a multimillionaire, you've got this beautiful family, you've been married for 20 years, you know, all this stuff, you've got all this freedom and all this happiness, and you help other people. Like, if there was one thing that you could attribute all this success to, what would it be? And he goes, I can answer that easy. My dad was an alcoholic. He beat the shit out of me and my brother and you know what I mean? And he gave the exact same reason that the brother, like, so none of us experience the world as it is. We experience it through the map that we've created from our life experiences that start when we're a kid. And I would just challenge everybody, like, what are the stories? What are the beliefs? What is the program that you're running in your brain? Which ones of those are really serving you, and which ones of them are holding you back? Because we have 60 to 70,000 subconscious thoughts a day. 90% of them are the same as we had yesterday and the day before. So I know it sounds woo, man, but I really want people to understand and grab and
it's not woo. It's not woo woo, because if you listen to any one of the previous episodes, every single entrepreneur, nearly every entrepreneur, says once you get your mind right, everything else starts falling into place. And it's like the Pareto, I believe it's Pareto theory. You mentioned it, like 80-20 principle. 20% of your work will guarantee 80% of your success, or 80% of your problems come from 20% of it, come from 20%, you know. And if you think about it, your mindset is everything. Like, if you don't think you can do it, you're not going to be able to do it. It's simple as that. Like, I'm attempting, or I'm doing my best to limit the word try from my life.
Yeah.
because whether you do it or you don't, you've already done, you've made the decision. You don't have to try,
That's right.
because
That's right.
if you can't do it, or if you don't do it,
I'm trying to start doing, I mean,
yeah,
that's the truth, man. Like you can try to pick up the chair. What does that look like? Pick the damn chair up, like that. But that's
whether
the
you
issue.
do it or you don't.
That's right. That's right.
And I love that you're just reiterating it, and you're going like your mindset is so important, because once you get your mind onto the possibilities, or not the possibilities, the eventual outcomes, when you do put the work in, do everything, put in the mechanics, it's going to get to the success you want. You're proof of it. Look, and you lost everything, came back in a year to be nearly successful as you were previously. So it's mechanics and mindset. If you believe it, you can do it.
Right.
We are coming up to the end, which I hate, because you've already dropped more knowledge, I think, than I expected. My cup is overflowing with the knowledge and the advice you've shared. I have a question before we get to the last one.
Yeah, man.
In your journey so far, you've done a shit ton of stuff. You've got 10 businesses that in the first year made $1 million. You're now dealing with Fortune 1000 companies. You're on the up and up. What is the next step? What is the next rung of the ladder, if you will, of your corporate journey? I want to say, because you live your own corporate life, that you see yourself achieving. It could be 5, 10, 20 years from now, or be in the next year, whichever one you want. Like, what does that next goal look like, or the next part of your life look like?
This may sound cliche, and I don't want it to sound cliche, so I'm going to tell a quick story before I answer it. And that was like, when I started to get back on my feet, my mentor was doing a live event in St. Louis for about 300 people. And he asked me if I would come to that event and teach people how I went from bankrupt, completely wiped out, max level pain, to we made $3.6 million that next year. And I'm not saying, hey, look at me, like it was a rough journey. What I'm saying is, like, we went from worst of the worst to back there within 12 months. And he's like, will you come teach everybody at this event what you did? And I'm like, no, absolutely not. Like this is my competition. It was in my own market. I'm from St. Louis. So here's what you want me to do. I just got back on my feet. I just got back to the place where I don't have to be nervous when I run my debit card for ramen noodles at the grocery store. Now you want me to go train my entire competition, my exact business model. And so I was like, no. And you know what he says to me? He goes, well, Jason, you've got two choices. You can either have a abundance mindset or a scarcity mindset, and you clearly have a scarcity mindset. Good luck. Click. Dude hangs up on me, and I'm like, what an asshole. And so now I'm pissed. Now I'm mad. I'm like, nobody talks. You talk to me like this. But he was right, and it was eating at me, because I am like abundance mind. You know what I mean? I am the giver. I am the kid that my mom yelled at. Why are you always paying for your friends' gas and their food? And why are you always doing everything for everybody else? Everybody's taking advantage of you. Like, I'm that guy. And so I called him back about a week later, and I was like, all right, man, I'll do. You're right. I want to help. I want to give. I'm not happy about it, and this is still kind of bullshit, but I'll do it. And so I go and teach. And at the end of that, man, this guy came up to me and he said, Jason, I need to tell you something. He said, I tried to kill myself yesterday and my family intervened. I am at the lowest point I've ever been in my entire life. I am in the storm that you were in a year ago. I just lost my house. I just lost my business. My wife and kids left. Like everything bad that could possibly happen is happening to me right this very moment. And yesterday I couldn't take it anymore. And a family member intervened and said, you need to come to this event with me. And he's like, what I just heard, your story, what you just shared, I have hope for the first time in like 5 years. Like I have, and like, dude, like, I mean, you can see I got freaking chills on my.
Yeah, I'm feeling the emotion from this story, because that's huge.
It's crazy, dude. And that's why I wanted to tell this first, so it didn't sound like cliche, but that was the first time I ever felt like, okay, I understand why God put me here. I'm making a real difference. It's great to make money. It's, I can introduce you to a lot of multimillionaires that are miserable, unhappy people that have no fulfillment, that have more money than they ever need. Like, that money in and of itself isn't what gives you fulfillment. And so when you asked about like, what's the next chapter look like for me, I am really loving, our message is just to positively impact as many people as we can. I started this group called Transformation Nation, and it's free. We just give value. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to help people transform their lives. I'm trying to help people understand why they give up on themselves. Like, what are the things that you've been telling yourself for 2, 3, 4, 5 years that you wanted to do, whether it was lose 20 pounds, whether it was start the business, whether it was quit your corporate job, whether it was be a better husband or wife, whatever it is, we all have those things. I help people understand why they're not getting the result that they say they want to get, and I help them get it quick. And that in and of itself has been one of the most rewarding things that I've done in any business capacity in 24 years. So I'm excited about growing that. I'm excited about sharing that message. I'm excited about teaching people, helping people learn what they don't know that's holding them back.
I love that. That's fucking great. I love it. Just like you helped that guy after you were in the storm, see a path through, you're going to do the same for probably
right, man.
hundreds and thousands of more. And I love that, because you're still young. So the impact that you're going to have is going to be multi-generational for sure.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate that.
Speaking of multi-generation, we're going to jump back, because I have your 10-year-old self here. He tried to pay for my gas when I was picking him up from the airport. And I'm like, kid, listen, I'm fine. It's okay. You're a guest of mine. Let me get you some snacks. He's here sitting beside me, and he's ready to hear, what's one piece of advice you would love to be able to hand back to your 10-year-old self?
And I think one of the best bits of advice that I've ever received from a mentor of mine that I try to share with as many people as I can is the phrase, if I can't, I must. Like really, really absorb that deep. If I can't, I must. If I can't, I must. And I beat that into myself at a young age, at probably 18, 19. And I conditioned myself that whenever something feels uncomfortable, whenever something feels scary, I have to immediately turn into it. I have to immediately turn into it and deal with it right there on the spot, whether that's heights, whether it's business, whether it's public speaking, whether it's cold calling people, whether it's learning to fly a helicopter. Dude, the first time I went for helicopter lessons, I was so excited, so freaking excited. And I get in the thing, I'm thinking we're going to have 20 hours of ground school first before I start to fly. We go out to the helicopter, we get in it, and I think the guy's just teaching me stuff. He picks the thing up and he goes over, and I'm like, I didn't know we were even flying today. He goes, put your right hand here, put your left hand here, put your left foot here, put your right foot here. And so I'm doing this, but and then he picks his hands up and he goes, controls are yours. Like, this is 2 minutes being inside the helicopter. And I'm like, controls are not mine. Like, I throw my hands up there, and then the thing goes, and he grabs it again. Dude, I got back in my truck and I've got like a level 10 migraine headache. I can't even drive home because I'm so stressed out. And I'm not that dude, man. Like, I'll go skydiving, I'll do fun stuff. Petrified, dude, petrified. I'm like, I'm done. Never doing this again. And I'm literally chanting to myself, never doing this again, never doing this again, never doing this again, while I'm trying to let this migraine get better enough that I can drive. And in that moment, man, that if I can't, I must thing came in, I was like, shit. So I stumble back in to the place and I booked my next training. And I remember in that moment, I made myself the deal. I can quit this once I'm not afraid of it, but I have to do it until I'm not afraid. And then once I'm not afraid anymore, if I want to quit, then I can quit. That was the deal I made myself. It was 7 lessons, 7 hours of hell. And on the eighth lesson, I could fly that damn thing, dude. I could fly it. And it was the coolest thing it was so freaking cool, man. And so like, that parable is with everything in life, dude. We everything that we're afraid of, everything that's outside of our comfort zone, that's where we grow. That's where life is, man. If we're not growing, we're dying. And so if I can't, I must turn into the things that you think are fearful until they're not fearful anymore.
I love it. It's such a great message. And it's echoing a message of one of the people one of the YouTube channels I follow called Seek Discomfort. They're Yes Theory guys. That's their main brand. And they have a shirt that I wear now that has one circle that's your comfort zone, and then there's a beautiful other that's your uncomfortable zone, the zone of growth that they have.
Yeah,
and it's like, it's so true, like you said, like turn into the uncomfortable, because that's where the growth is. That's where beauty of life is. And like,
right, man.
You have a lot more willpower, because I would have been nope, bye. I wouldn't even have made.
I wanted to, dude. I mean, trust me. I mean, I'm not kidding when I say I'm like holding the steering wheel, chanting, "I'm never doing this again, never doing this." And I am not that guy, man.
Yeah, from this whole conversation, I can tell. Like, but that that deal you made yourself probably would have been 3 years later for me to make that deal with my Spanish. But Jason, I thank you so much for being here. I'm going to jump off stage. I want you to tell my audience where they can connect you, where they can find that free group of yours so that they can start unlocking the potential. The floor is yours.
Thanks. So first thing I'd encourage you guys to do, I have a 16-week like in-depth training that I bring my one-on-one clients through, and it's expensive and not everybody can afford it. And I get that. And so I took that and I condensed it down into a 3-hour training. It sells on my website for $1,000. I want to give that to your audience for completely free. You don't have to buy it. Go to www.ultimatesuccessblueprint.com. And all you have to do is put your information in. We're not going to spam you. I'm not going to try to sell you anything. It's just my gift to you. It will then prompt you to join our Facebook group called Transformation Nation. And it's a free group. It's just where my girlfriend leads a meditation once a week. We're putting all kinds of positive message and training and all kinds of things in there. I want to help and serve in any way that I can. I've been blessed to be able to do it. And so that's where you can find us. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Coach Jason Roberts on either one of those. Love to hear from you guys. I hope this message helped. I hope it made a difference. I hope I can, give in any capacity that I can.
Jason, I can already tell that your episode has helped me at least. So you've helped one person.
Then I succeeded, man.
Then just like you, help one person a day, the world becomes a better place, 1% better. You become a better person at the end of the year. Jason, I can't thank you enough for being here. It was a pleasure having you on, chatting with you, and the advice that you gave. It was mind-blowing in essence.
Thanks, Phil. I appreciate that, man. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for the message that you're spreading, and this is how we help people,
I love it. To my audience, make sure you check out the show notes down below because everything Jason has just said about the $1,000 course for free for you and it's Ultimate Success Blueprint, correct?
That's correct.
Excellent. UltimateSuccessBlueprint.com. In the show notes down below, you're guaranteed. I'm already over there as soon as we're ending the show because I want to get that because I know it's going to be life-changing. So make sure you check out that and everything else in the show notes down below. Jason, again, thank you very much. To my audience, thank you for listening. And as always, remember to invest in yourself.
Thanks for tuning in. Now it's time to take the next step. When you're ready to dive deeper into how to launch, grow, and monetize your podcast, Phil's got something special for you. Join him for a free webinar where he'll reveal the 3 secrets that have helped countless entrepreneurs succeed in podcasting. Click the link in the show notes to save your spot, and let's turn your podcasting dreams into reality.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.